Hi, everyone. This is Gigi Sabat, and you're listening to the Walk With Me podcast. My guest today is Wes Dove. Welcome to the show, Wes.
Gigi, appreciate the opportunity to be with you. It's been a bit since Cindy and I've got to see you in person, but gosh, we love seeing you online every chance we get.
Such an honor to meet both of you in person as well, and such an honor to have you here today. Now, why don't you start off by telling us more about you and where are you from, Wes?
So I live in the central Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. I tell people it's away from all the traffic and the politics. So we're kind of country, rural area. I grew up as just a country boy. I was a carpenter. I worked in manufacturing for almost 20 years in addition to being a carpenter. And I've studied Mr. John Maxwell for about 25 years now. And that really gave me the foundation to do some fun stuff that we get to do today, in addition to the human resources and safety and the different things I did while I was still in manufacturing.
I love it. Now, you are also a part of the Voices for Leadership community and a part of Volume 1. Tell us a little bit more about your experience.
Yeah, so that was just a cool project, Gigi, and you've been involved with that as well. And that's actually where we got to meet in person with the authors retreat in 2023. But Brian Brogan has been a good friend of mine for a number of years. We both hosted the Live to Lead event through the Maxwell World for a number of years, and I got to know Brian through that. And when he says, "Hey, I'm putting this collaborative project together, and I would love you to contribute," gosh, I jumped at it because I'd done a project on communication, a collaborative book before, I think back in 2019, but I hadn't got to do anything in the leadership space at that point in time, and it was just a good opportunity to get my feet wet in that and learn a lot about what it takes to put together a book.
Absolutely amazing. Now, what are 3 qualities that you believe a leader should have?
Oh, I appreciate you asking that question. I don't think leadership has anything to do with title or position. I think leadership is the positive impact we make on other people and helping them be more effective in their own space. It's not doing stuff for other people that they could and should be doing for themselves. It's really, how do we empower them? How do we give them tools, and how can they look around and say, I'm better off because of Gigi. I'm better off because of Wes. I'm better off because of, you insert the name. That's leadership.
I love it. Now, Wes, tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges that you had to overcome in your life.
So I'm kind of high school educated. I've worked just about full-time hours since I was about 15 years old, and I just never was in a spot that I could go all into the college world. But I've done some college and so on, just to keep me out of jail when I'm becoming a human resource professional and so on and so forth. But we've worked hard. Cindy and I got married fairly young. We paid for a wedding. We paid for a house all at the same time. We had kids, and we were poor. So it was just coming up by the bootstraps, so to speak. And we just had to figure out what are the tools that can help us earn influence and really develop leadership in ourselves, because every role I've ever had, I've been responsible to get results. But prior to starting our own business, I never had direct authority in a position for other people that where they had to do what I said because I was their boss, right? But I still had to get results, and I had to earn that influence.
It's very powerful. Now, what message do you have for someone who's facing a challenge today, Wes?
So Gigi, you and I talked a little bit before. I've got a book set to publish on February 20, and it's really based on a conversation I had with a friend a number of years ago, where he calls me up at night. He's the CEO of a local firm, and he says, "Wes, I had a rough conversation with my board today. They need me to develop better relationships with my team, and I don't have time for that touchy feely stuff. I'm here to get results." And I told him, "Man, I love you, but you don't have time not to pay attention to that touchy feely stuff." And my whole message is, gosh, those soft skills, the communication skills and leadership skills, so many people write off as intangible. They make a huge difference on the bottom line in all of our organizations. We just need to know how to measure it and how to quantify it so we can get those true results.
That's very true. Now, what message do you have for someone who is stuck in their comfort zone, Wes?
Oh, I don't know what a comfort zone is, Gigi. I mean, Cindy and I had a conversation with one of my best friends in life. We've been friends for close to 40 years, and he's owned a number of businesses, and now he trains people in mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, those kinds of things. And he says, so he has about a 1 in 10 retention rate because so many people are afraid to get out of that comfort zone. They're afraid to fail. They want to be good right away. And there's just no such thing as being good right away. We all have to be bad before we can ever get good. And it really takes, how do we get used to accepting failures and overcoming those failures and making sure our best now is not our best tomorrow. We're always getting better.
That's very true. Now, what if someone finds themselves drifting? What message do you have for that particular individual?
Oh my goodness, latch on to people that are farther down the path that are where you want to be, because drifting, it makes me think of Napoleon Hill's book they didn't publish until years after his death, called Outwitting the Devil, and where they talked about how detrimental drifting is for all of us in our lives, and we get in those paths, and it can just, it's the devil's tool that they talked about in that.
That's very true. And Wes, what is your best advice to the audience for walking with purpose and living a life of happiness?
uh, Identify that purpose and how it serves other people. Gigi, right? I haven't shared this with many folks yet. I'm about 20% of the way into a new book right now that's really about how do we as leaders identify our own purpose, but how do we also be very, very intentional about recognizing and helping our team members understand their purpose too, so we can collaboratively work together. So that purpose is so critical because it keeps us full. Without that purpose, we're going to be, we hear things like burnout and we hear people being exhausted. It's not about the amount of work we do, it's about not having purpose.
That's very true. And tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to write your book.
Well, there's a lot of people that I know I'm never going to reach in person. And I've heard John Maxwell say, hey, the books that I wrote early on was really about how do I expand that reach and serve people. And Cindy and I do a lot of work with a lot of folks throughout Virginia, but across the United States. But I also know that there's people that have been in similar environments to us that need to hear that story and need to understand, hey, we can do this, but here's specific practical steps that we can apply. And oh, by the way, here's how those practical steps can achieve very, very measurable and tangible results that impact our company. So companies and individuals can do the things they need to do in their communities and really make a positive impact.
I love it. And what if someone has a book that God's put on their heart, but they don't know where to begin? What message do you have for that particular individual?
Oh gosh, just start doing it. I mean, I look back and you mentioned Voices for Leadership Volume 1 specifically, and that along with the other collaborative project I did, those were the pieces that really gave me the framework. Again, I barely graduated high school, and English comp was the thing that that's when I dropped out of college the first time. I said, okay, it's English time. I'm done. I'm not doing this. And those two book projects, the collaborative ones, gave me the perspective of, gosh, it's not that hard. I can do this. And here's the step by step. And it's one of those, how do we eat an elephant? Just take a bite at a time. And gosh, we've written a lot. Cindy and I write our own curriculum. We've got about 150 hours of material. And I just had to figure out what's the process that I can make this flow cohesively into being a real book. And that's kind of where we ended up. And now it's kind of fun.
Such a powerful statement that you said earlier. You said, you can do this. Now, Wes, what if someone finds themselves talking to themselves very negatively? What message do you have for that individual?
Oh, stop it. But so there's a couple different resources I remember reading early on. One is, what do you say when you talk to yourself? I can't remember the author's name. Most of us are talking to ourselves negatively. And understand we're typically, especially if we're these driven, high performing folks that want to make a difference, we're typically much more critical of ourselves than other people are. And I remember hearing somebody say, you know what other people were thinking about you? Not much. They're pretty focused on themselves. And we all have things that we do wrong, could do better, but stop thinking bad about it. Look for ways you can improve, and be okay with learning to stub your toes and pick yourself up, and it's okay.
It's very true and very powerful. Thank you, Wes. Now, do you have any last words for the audience?
I think my last words would be, look for the people around you that you can continue to get better by being around them, the people that will push you, the people that will help make you better in every aspect of your life. And it might not be the same person all the time, and it's certainly not going to be the same person for every area of your life, but look for those people that really help you stretch and can sow into you, so you can in turn then sow into other people. I hear Mark Cole say a lot, and John Maxwell, be that river, not a reservoir. Look for those people so you can learn from and pass it on to others.
Very powerful. Thank you, Wes. And Wes, where can the audience find you, and when should they expect your launch date for your book?
So the book, it's called What's Killing Your Profitability. It all boils down to leadership. That's going to be released on February 20th. And that's National Leadership Day. We picked it that day for a reason, and we're excited about that. It will be on the ebook's available at 99 cents right now until the launch on Amazon. And we've got some different pages on our website. I think, Gigi, you might have a link that's a tiny URL or the page dove-development.net, and there's a bunch of other links on there. But we're pretty active on social media, primarily LinkedIn. I think my wife keeps us fairly active on some other platforms as well, but LinkedIn's probably the easiest way outside of our website.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Wes. And yes, I'm actually sharing out those links here, and you can also find them in the link in bio there as far as the podcast goes, for those of you who are looking for the location of the book as well. And Wes, thank you again for being a guest on the Walk With Me podcast. I appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate you as well. And like I said before we went live, it's always just so great to see you, and we appreciate your friendship, man.
Likewise. God bless you and be safe, my friend.
Thanks so much.